Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my series where I go over the lore of the artifact weapons that we get in Legion from each of the different classes. Uh, no fancy start here. I mean, I guess I could have shown some of the stuff in the order hall here, but uh, the Hunter is one of those that I actually have not done that much with or thought was really that great or interesting. It's not as disappointing as the Warrior one, but you know, I don't know. Hunter is just I like it, but I kind of wish it was more. I don't know. It's something about it's just not clicking with me. I do like. Well, You're not here to hear me discuss my likes or dislikes of the classes. You're here for me to read up on the lore. Tales of the Hunt. Yes, the first weapon is Titan Strike, which is a gun which the secret appearance makes it a bow. Don't question it. It's blame Mimiron if you have a problem with it. The brilliant keeper Mimiron crafted many firearms, but Titan Strike was his crowning achievement. It was his first rifle, and he designed it to harness the raw fury of storms. Mimiron gave the weapon to his good friend Keeper Thorim to use in battle. Thorim was a legendary fighter who relished the hunt, and he wielded Titan Strike with great care and skill. No beast, no matter how mighty, could withstand the rifle's explosive power. With you, Titan Strike has found someone worthy of carrying on Thorim's legacy. Hunt wisely, aim true. What's sad is that when Legion moved to BFA, they made it where this weapon lost its legacy ability, which was having an extra, a very certain special pet join you, Hati, and because it was bound to the weapon. But once BFA came around and they pretty much removed all the special stuff about the artifact weapons, Hati was gone. But then again, they brought him back that you could actually get him as a mount in BFA. So, there you go. Titan Strike was not conceived by a mortal mind, nor was it crafted by mortal hands. This rifle traces its origins to a mirthful being named Mimiron. He was one of the Keepers, a race of noble creatures who warred with the old gods and imprisoned the wicked entities beneath the earth. We get to meet him and have an interesting boss battle with him in Ulduar. Some of Mimiron's fellow Keepers could wield the fury of storms, like Ra. Others were mighty warriors. Mimiron's strength was not physical, but mental. His intellect and creativity had no equal. That's debatable. Day and night, Mimiron tinkered away at unique mechanisms. He was especially fond of experimenting with weapons that the Keepers and their servants could use to protect Azeroth. When the Earthen suggested that Mimiron make something that could strike at enemies from a distance, the Keeper devoted himself to the challenge. Before long, he developed the first firearm in history, a rifle known as Titan Strike. Mimiron's inventions rarely worked as intended. At least, not at first. He embraced the process of trial and error, often to the detriment of his faithful servants, the clockwork mechanomes. While testing one of the earliest versions of Titan Strike, Mimiron set part of his workshop on fire and damaged over a dozen mechanomes. The Keeper learned a great deal from the disaster. After repairing his injured servants, Mimiron fine-tuned Titan Strike. He took the next prototype to a stormy mountain peak, a remote place where no one would be injured if the weapon went haywire. Mimiron's decision to test Titan Strike atop a mountain peak proved disastrous, but it was also illuminating. He had forged the newest version of the rifle with a mix of rare metal alloys that unintentionally attracted electricity. When Mimiron fired the weapon, a bolt of lightning leapt from a storm cloud and blasted Titan Strike into two pieces. Mimiron wasn't angry or disappointed. He was ecstatic. The accident gave him an idea. The Keeper would reassemble Titan Strike, and he would embrace its connection to the elements. He would infuse it with the power of storms. From Chapter 4 of The Storm Thieves by the historian Evelina. Mimiron needed help to make his idea of Titan Strike a reality. He needed Keeper Thorim. I remember you in the mountains. Thorim commanded the crackling powers locked within the skies. His lair, the Temple of Storms, acted as a conduit for thunder and lightning. It would serve as the perfect forge to remake Titan Strike. One day, as an angry tempest churned over the temple, the two keepers went to work. Thorim wrestled with the winds and the lightning until they bent to his will. He gathered the storm and all its fury into a concentrated orb of energy called the Thunder Spark, and then he bound it to his temple. Mimiron was ready. He channeled the Thunder Spark into Titan Strike. Lightning rocked the temple before the keeper finally sealed the wrathful storm inside the rifle. From Chapter 11 of the same book, by the same author. The Earthen have a legend of a time when the sky went mad. It is said that thunder rolled through the heavens from distant corners of Azeroth. For weeks on end, most of the keepers thought something terrible had happened, that the sky itself had broken. But Mimiron ignored the sounds. Several keepers, led by Loken, followed the thunderous noise across the world. They finally tracked its source to an island far to the south, where monstrous devilsaurs and other scaled creatures roamed. There the keepers discovered Thorim and his two wargs, Hati and Scully. In the midst of a hunt, Loken hurried to the keeper's side to warn him of the sky's unrest. That was when he realized that Thorim himself was responsible for it. Thorim had received Titan Strike from Mimiron shortly after its creation, and he had wasted no time using it in his favorite hunting grounds. His own energies amplified the rifle's explosive power. Every time he fired it, a thunderclap would split the heavens and rumble over the world. From Chapter 20, same book, same author. The only beast to escape Thorim and his wargs on their great hunts was a monstrous Jormungandr worm. The creature, covered in thick plates of white stone, was the largest of its kind ever to exist. When Thorim discovered the worm, he took aim with Titan Strike. His first shot cracked the Jormungr's stone hide. Before he could fire again, his prey leapt forward and knocked Titan Strike from his grasp. Thorim pummeled the worm with his bare fists and forced it to burrow into the earth. So began a hunt that would last decades. Thorim and his wargs tracked the Jormungandr across the north, battling the worm whenever it emerged from the ground. In his last encounter with the beast, the keeper landed a shot between its armor plates. The Jormungandr fled, and it was never seen again. Betrayal eventually shattered the unity of the keepers. Most were imprisoned within their fortress of Ulduar. Thorim sank into depression and secluded himself in the Temple of Storms. Even hunting no longer made him happy, and he stored Titan Strike in his lair. Ages passed, and the Keeper's servants spread across the icy north. The Vrykul formed clans and sought to dominate the land. A warrior named Voland yearned for more than that. He dreamed of lording over every Vrykul. To do so, he searched for the powerful mechanisms and weapons crafted by the Keepers. Voland's journeys would bring him to a lone mechanome. The Vrykul took the defenseless clockwork creature prisoner and forced him to reveal information about Mimiron's creations. From the mechanome, Voland learned of Titan Strike and its location. Following Loken's betrayal, Thorim secluded himself in the Temple of Storms. He often drifted off into bouts of fitful sleep for years on end, while Hati and Skull roamed the wilds as they pleased. Voland waited for one of these periods of slumber to steal Titan Strike. He ensnared a mighty proto-drake and used the beast to ascend to the Temple of Storms. Right under Thorim's nose, the bold Vrykul pilfered Titan Strike and fled the Keeper's lair. After Thorim awoke and discovered that Titan Strike was missing, he called Hati and Skull to his side. The wargs and their master picked up Voland's trail and stormed after him. The Vrykul narrowly stayed one step ahead of his pursuers, but he knew that he could not do so forever. Thorim and his wargs were legendary hunters. They would eventually track down Voland and punish him. Along with his captured mechanome and the relics that he had uncovered, Voland escaped the north. He journeyed far to the south, to a land that he had only heard stories of. A land known as Stormheim. From Chapter 3 of The False Keeper by the historian Lore. Voland bragged of his might, and he demanded that Stormheim's Vrykul follow his command. Of course, they did not obey him. Not yet. A few Vrykul stepped forward to silence the arrogant newcomer. Voland felled them all with Titan Strike, each shot booming like a giant's footstep. Excuse me. When the Vrykul witnessed Voland's power, they were in awe. He wielded the strength of the Keepers, and therefore they believed that he must have earned the mythical being's favor. Voland declared himself warlord, and he rallied Stormheim's warriors under his banner. He and his army marched out from Stormheim to conquer the surrounding land for the glory of the Vrykul. From Chapter 7 of the same book, by the same author. Warlord Voland had the strength of numbers and the weaponry needed to bring the lands around Stormheim to heal. What he lacked was unity. As the Vrykul ranks made war against the mighty Drogbar near Stormheim, Voland grew suspicious of his followers. He believed that they were planning to murder him and take Titan Strike for themselves. After all, if he had stolen it from a keeper, surely someone could steal it from him. Voland's paranoia drove him to torture and execute many of his allies. The bulk of the Vrykul soldiers abandoned the crazed warlord, and his once formidable army crumbled. Many years later, as Voland neared death, he ordered his enslaved Mechanome and his few remaining Vrykul followers to bury him alongside Titan Strike. The warlord used the Keeper-wrought mechanisms that he had stolen as defensive wards to keep grave robbers out of his tomb. Even in death, Voland would let no one touch his cherished rifle. Fortunately, Titan Strike did not remain buried beside the would-be conqueror forever. The rifle was not forged to spread terror or to dominate. It was forged to protect Azeroth. Now reclaimed, Mimron's masterwork can fulfill its original purpose. It will strike wherever darkness stirs, and its thunderous rapport will herald the death of all who threaten the world or its people. I will say the quest to get it was actually pretty cool. Getting to go back to Ulduar, see Mimron and Thorim. Pretty cool quest. Alright. Now for Marksman. And a weapon that has to do with a character that, hopefully someday we'll actually see, after years and years of asking, what happened to this character? Fostoria, the legacy of the Windrunners. If only we could see the true glory of Quel'Thalas again. Fostoria was created to aid in the defense of the Highborn Kingdom. But over the course of its storied history, the weapon became so much more. It has journeyed from Azeroth to the darkest corners of the Twisting Nether, and it has spilled the Burning Legion's blood on the demon's home territory. The rightful owner of this bow is still missing. But Illyria Windrunner was stalwart and practical. She would insist that a worthy champion use it to strike fear in the Legion's heart once again. Keep in mind, this guy wrote this before we went to Argus, so just point that out. Nearly 7,000 years ago, the Highborn founded a new home in the Eastern Kingdoms. Their journey had been hard, and the land was hostile, but the end result was astonishing. The elves had built upon a confluence of magical ley lines and created a city, Silvermoon, near the Sunwell, a fount of pure arcane power. The kingdom of Quel'Thalas rose over the land as a shining monument to the glorious civilization that had once surrounded the shores of the Well of Eternity. As the Sunwell's magic radiated outward through Eversong Woods, the forest's oldest tree began to absorb its energy. The massive tree was named Thasala, the light of the forest. From its enchanted branches, the entire region seemed to be bathed in the glow of an eternal spring. This bow would be made from Thasala's wood, and it would bear the legacy of a highborn family whose members showed heroism for thousands of years. The highborn elves of Quel'Thalas had fended off constant attacks from Amani trolls. To keep their enemies at bay, they constructed a series of monolithic runestones that acted as wards against intruders, and also hid the elves' use of arcane magic from the Burning Legion. The wards succeeded in keeping their enemies out of Silvermoon, in part due to their anchor. The elven arcanists had linked the runestones to Thassalah, tying the power of natural magic to their arcane spells. However, the tree's power could not keep the Highborn safe when they left their city. For that, they needed skilled fighters. The Amani trolls were wary of launching direct attacks on Silvermoon. The elves' magic kept them at bay for several millennia, but eventually the trolls lashed out again. The conflict would become known as the Troll Wars. The death toll rose quickly. An order of fighters called Rangers was founded to defend Quel'Thalas. The greatest of these early Rangers was Talonus Windrunner, a master of archery and ranged combat. He swiftly rose in the ranks and was named the first Ranger General of Silvermoon for his bravery and valor. The leaders of Silvermoon commemorated the occasion by declaring that their champion be given a weapon befitting his new status. Highborn weaponsmiths set to work immediately. Give me a second. Alright. A trio of skilled artisans joined together to create a bow for Talonus. They carved its body from a limb taken from Thassalah and infused the wood with the waters of the Sunwell. So this bow is made not just from that incredibly powerful tree, but also from the Sunwell. Immersed in arcane power, the bow began to change. It was hardened, becoming nearly indestructible. And yet it still maintained its connection to the natural magics of Thassalah. When it was retrieved from the Sunwell, the bow radiated power. Talonus was humbled by the gift. He named the He named the weapon Fostoria, Valor of the Forest. He promised that as long as this weapon protected Highborn lands, Silvermoon would never fall. Talonus made good on his promise. Thasdora's power was so skillfully wrought that even a novice would have been able to hit a target from 100 paces. In his hands, each arrow sang as it sailed to its mark. The Amani trolls soon learned to fear the sight of his bow, for if they ever caught a glimpse of it, they were within its range. They were forced to retreat, allowing the Highborn elves to settle deeper into the forest. Talonus Windrunner became a legend for his part in securing the land of Quel'Thalas for future generations. Thasdora remained with the Windrunner bloodline for thousands of years. The family dedicated their lives to the defense of Quel'Thalas, and in each generation one would carry the bow into the forest to drive away any interlopers. Because Thasdora never left the region, it continued to bask in the radiant magic of the Sunwell and the surrounding forests. Slowly but surely, the bow was seasoned in a way that no one could have anticipated. Its strength only increased. Its powers began to manifest in surprising ways. An arrow launched towards a target might be joined by other magical arrows, also aimed at the enemy. Even after the Troll Wars drew to a close, Thasdora helped repel countless enemy incursions. A few years before the Horde invaded Azeroth, the Ranger General of Silvermoon was Lyrisa Windrunner, who had 3 daughters, Illyria, Sylvanas, and Verisa. As the eldest, Illyria was to take on the mantle of Ranger General, but she had little use for tradition or expectations. She decided to apply her training to practical matters, so she became a Farstrider, a member of a group of rangers focused on fighting for the Highborn all across Azeroth. She made a name for herself after a number of quick, decisive victories. Her sister, Sylvanas, would one day rise to leadership in her stead. Thasdora remained in Lyrisa's hands. It would not be passed on to Illyria until tragedy struck. When the Horde invaded, most of the kingdoms of Azeroth did not believe that it was a threat. After the orcs burned Stormwind to the ground, a few leaders took notice. I like how it's written there. It's like, they didn't think it was a threat, but once they burned one of the most prominent cities to the ground, they were like, oh, maybe we should actually take notice of that. The rulers of Silvermoon were reluctant to commit significant aid to the humans of Lordaeron, but Illyria thought that the demon-possessed orcs were a grave danger to the entire world. She led her group of rangers to Lordaeron against orders and fought at the Alliance side with bravery. It wasn't until the orcs allied with the Amani trolls and turned their attention to Quel'Thalas that the Highborn understood the true threat. No, they didn't. Them with the trolls was not the true threat. Remember, the demonic horde was here on behalf of the Burning Legion. Let's remember that. Many Elven Rangers, including Lyrisa Windrunner, the Ranger General, died in a bloody attack. Sylvanas Windrunner would become the new Ranger General, but she passed Thasdora to her older sister, Illyria. Sylvanas needed to help secure Quel'Thalas. She trusted that Illyria, a Farstrider, would have better opportunities to extract vengeance on the front lines. Even back then, Sylvanas was all about revenge and vengeance. Her instincts proved correct. Illyria struck fear into orcs and trolls alike, bringing down countless enemies with her arrows. When the Second War ended, the orcs retreated to their homeworld of Draenor and rallied under a new war chief, Ner'zhul. The former chieftain of the Shadowmoon clan, promised that he would open portals to undiscovered worlds, ones ripe for plundering. The Alliance had no intention of letting him. Illyria volunteered to join the Alliance expedition as its lead scout. She carried Thasdora to Draenor with her. The need for revenge still weighed heavy on her heart. It wasn't until she became close to a human, Turalian, that she began to see a future beyond this war. The Alliance expedition fought the Horde all across Draenor, but Ner'zhul succeeded in opening countless portals. The magical stress on the orcs' homeworld was so great that it was torn apart, becoming Outland. Those among the Alliance who had not escaped through the Dark Portal, including Illyria and Turalian, were presumed dead. Remember, that was only 23 or so years ago. And yet, Turalian says 1,000 years. So, when Thasdora was recovered from the Legion world of Niskara, it renewed hope that Illyria had survived the destruction of Draenor. Varisa believed that her eldest sister had continued her war against evil by hunting the Burning Legion itself, pursuing it into the deepest recesses of the Twisting Nether. Just as Thasdora had absorbed power from its native realm, it had drunk deeply of the chaotic magics that swirled through the Nether. Its arrows grew more potent, more accurate, and more lethal against the minions of the dark. The bow became a symbol of the war against the Legion, a means to rally the greatest hunters of Azeroth against the demon horde. Quel'Thalas is not what it once was. Thasala, the tree from which this bow was crafted, was cut down by the forces of Arthas Menethil. The citadel of Deathholm now stands atop its withered roots, which you can see now if you travel there. The Highborn suffered massive losses at the hands of the Scourge, so much so that the few remaining survivors called themselves Blood Elves in remembrance of that tragedy. This bow was crafted to protect innocents from evil. It has done so admirably on this world and on countless others. Now it has been returned to Azeroth, launched by one of the world's greatest champions. Thasdora's arrows will fly once more against evil. I do really like the look of this bow. In fact, let's compare it to what, if I recall correctly, is the only legendary bow you can get in this game. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Well, that's funny. Because I'm pretty sure... There it is. There it is. Thoridal, the Star's Fury. The energy of the sun courses through Thoridal. So, I mean, when you compare these two, they both look pretty awesome. And they're almost kind of like similar in lore in that regard. At least based on that little tiny brief description of this legendary bow that you could have gotten from the Sunwell raid. Obviously, I haven't gotten it because I don't recall how many if I've ever actually done this raid with my hunter. And remember, it's a bow, and there's only 2 classes really that are capable of picking up a bow: a warrior and a hunter. So, not many classes that have an opportunity to actually collect this. I wouldn't mind trying for it at some point, but I don't know. I mean, it is a legendary bow, so anyways. Next up, survival. And hey, since this order hall takes place in High Mountain, it's pretty fitting. And of course, we get to get glimpses of this during our time in High Mountain as well. Talon Claw, the Spear of the Wild Gods. Crafted before the War of the Ancients, this spear has a unique tip carved to resemble an eagle's beak, and it is infused with the energies of animal ancients, or wild gods. Talon Claw has helped the Tauren defend the world of Azeroth against all enemies, and it was passed to the greatest hunter of the High Mountain tribe until it was lost. Its wielder will be honored among the Tauren, to whom it is legendary, but they will be hunted and reviled by the Legion. So from a role-playing perspective, if you want to kind of embrace being the race that wields each of these different ones, obviously playing as either a Tauren or a High Mountain Tauren, especially a High Mountain Tauren, and you like playing survival, this would definitely like go well with that. If you're playing as a Blood Elf, then definitely marksmanship with the bow. As for Titan Strike, that's a tough one. That can almost go to almost anybody. Any race, really. Long before the War of the Ancients, Tauren tribes roamed the sprawling wilds of ancient Kalimdor. The High Mountain tribe was led by Chieftain Morin High Mountain, who saved Anahra, gosh, some of these names. Anahra, a wild god in the form of a giant eagle spirit, from an attack by fire elementals. In thanks, the eagle infused a portion of her essence into Morin's spear, gifting it with powerful magical abilities. Morin carved Anahra's name onto the haft of his weapon, which his people took to calling the Eagle Spear in his honor. In her honor. To commemorate other heroes he encountered, enemies he bested, and the events that he witnessed, Morin carved their names onto the Eagle Spear. So I like that he's treating the Eagle Spear in the same regard that certain trophies in pro sports get treated, like the Stanley Cup, where you just kind of like engrave their names onto it. I lost my place for a second. As the spear was passed down to his descendants, they too carried on this tradition. In this way, the spear became a living history of the High Mountain tribe. Morin's granddaughter, Eruna, was expected to become her tribe's leader, but before she could believe herself worthy of this responsibility, she took the Eagle Spear with her on a pilgrimage, a rite of passage, to prove herself. In the northern lands, she rushed to defend a family of night elves from a cabal of tentacled beings issuing forth from a vast cave, wielding sinister magic, servants of the old gods who slumbered in dark places but were now awakening. She was joined in the struggle by a mighty bear who revealed himself as an ancient named Ursok. Together, Eruna and Ursok drove the strange creatures away. In the aftermath of Eruna High Mountain's battle alongside Ursok, the colossal bear took Eruna's measure and judged her worthy. Ursoc told her that a great darkness was coming, and that the world would need strong warriors and leaders like her to face it. By the way, this explains why the secret appearance for this weapon, which I don't have, by the way, this is not the secret appearance, but it does drop from Ursoc in the Emerald Nightmare raid. So if you're curious how to get the secret appearance for this weapon, that's where you get it. And that's why it makes sense that it drops from him. Ursoc told her that a great darkness was coming, and that the world would need strong warriors and leaders like her to face it. To aid her, he blessed her spear, adding his might to its enchanted power. In gratitude, Eruna carved Ursoc's name into the weapon, continuing the living story of the eagle's spear, and returned to her people, ready to lead them. Long after Eruna's passing, the spear was handed down to Huln High Mountain. Facing a devastating invasion from the Burning Legion, Huln unified other Tauren tribes under his banner to join the Night Elves in fighting the demons. During one heated battle, Huln tried to protect the two-headed wolf ancient, Omen, from the forces of the Legion, but the great beast was gravely wounded and poisoned with fell energy. Before he succumbed to demonic corruption, Omen gave his last breath of purity to the spear, adding to the powers that other wild gods had left therein. Huln placed the ancient's name on his spear so that his courage would always be remembered. During the War of the Ancients, Huln fought alongside many warriors who would go on to become legends in their own right. Among them was the night elf Jared Shadowsong, who saved Huln's life from a demon attack in one of the last battles of the war. Huln carved their names into the eagle spear as well. He even crossed paths with the greatest of all druids, Malfurion Stormrage. From legends related by the elders of the High Mountain tribe, Huln handed the spear to the druid, who examined the weapon closely, remarking on the sharp, curved end fashioned to resemble the eagle's beak, and on all the names carved into the shaft by the Tauren and his ancestors. Malfurion communed with the spirits within, and approved. It also doesn't mention the flashback that we actually get to see in High Mountain, where he saves a creature that has horns, similar to what the High Mountain wear, and in doing so, Cenarius himself blesses Huln and gives him those antlers as a way to show that he has that blessing. Tauren elders still tell that the Doom Lord Zyburn made it his personal mission to eradicate their race, and that Huln swore to kill him. The two bitter foes finally clashed during the battle for the Well of Eternity, and their fight ended only when Huln, seemingly beaten, landed a near-killing strike to Zyburn's face with his spear. The demon narrowly deflected the weapon, which, imbued with spirit powers, nonetheless struck him in the left eye, blinding him on that side. Huln won his battle, but before he could slay the Doom Lord, Zyburn, along with most of the demons in central Kalimdor, was expelled from Azeroth, back in the Twisting Nether. He licked his wounds, awaiting the Legion's next campaign, and vowing revenge on Huln, all Tauren and the weapon that had taken his sight. But there was no rest for Huln. Shortly thereafter, the Well of Eternity imploded, creating massive earthquakes that tore through the world. As the land of Kalimdor shuddered and began to break apart, Huln and his people fled for their lives. Following the War of the Ancients, the Tauren tribes went their separate ways. With their ancestral land destroyed in the Great Sundering, Huln led his people on a quest to find a new home. They traveled far and saw many parts of the reshaped Azeroth before making their way to the Broken Isles, where they built the village of Thunder Totem in the shadow of the isle's tallest peak. Having led his tribe to safety, Huln High Mountain bequeathed the Eagle Spear to his successor, and he went to join his ancestors. Legend has it that Onara herself appeared to carry the spirit of the great chieftain into the sky. Gosh, I'm struggling so much to read this today. Years after the legendary Holm's passing, the High Mountain tribe found itself led by twin sisters, Arienne and Gardrell. Although Arienne was the greater warrior and had an affinity to the wilds, Gardrell was acknowledged to be wiser and a strong diplomat. Rather than divide the tribe or place its well-being in the wrong hands, the aging chieftain named Gardrell the new chieftain, and Arienne became protector of the mountain, possessor of the eagle spear. The sisters were happy with their roles, and Arienne kept the tribe safe for many years, tapping into the blessings that the wild gods had bestowed on the weapons. She gave it the name Talon Claw, honoring the wild gods her ancestors had befriended. From the Journal of Arienne Highmountain, describing her tribe's encounter with an order of night elves called the Unseen Path. So maybe that's why this place is called the Order of the Unseen Path. Hold on just a second. Hopefully that'll help. Gardrell and I led the Night Elves up the slopes of a nearby mountain. As we approached the summit, Talon Claw began to glow, emanating power. Instinctively, I held it up to the sky, and all were amazed, none more so than I, to see a cascade of golden energy pour from the spearhead and take the shape of a great eagle. But Gardrell and I remembered the lore of our tribe and realized that Honora herself had blessed this site. At that very moment, we knew this sacred place should be renamed Talon Peak. It was only with the help of the High Mountain tribe that the hunters of the Unseen Path, who had come to the Broken Isle specifically to guard against the Legion, were able to build their new home, True Shot Lodge, the place that we're in right now. From the trio of towers known as the Three Talons, they watched over the land and vowed to be ready should the Burning Legion return. The elves and the Tauren learned much from each other, and Arienne eventually joined the Unseen Path, becoming one of its greatest members. The tradition of passing Talon Claw to the greatest hunter of the High Mountain tribe was carried on for many generations. If there were threats to the tribe or challenges to be conquered, the spear would be brought into battle. When word came that a mysterious beast was stalking the wilds of Stormheim, Nalmus Highmountain took up the spear and set out to tame the creature, or destroy it. The hunter was sent off with a great feast, and the epic song of Talon Claw was sung to bring Nalmus success in his quest. All felt sure that he would restore peace and calm to the land. Almost done. Whew, man, I'm struggling. When weeks passed without any word from Nalmus, a search party was dispatched. Though they looked far and wide, no trace of the famed hunter or his spear could be found, and several party members were lost to the unknown beast that prowled the mists. Over the years, many other brave hunters would set out to find the creature. Most were never heard from again, and the treasured spear had not been seen since Nalmus disappeared. Until you, with the guidance and blessing of Anra herself, recovered the legendary weapon. In so doing, you became a hunter whose name will long be remembered. With the spear of the wild gods in hand, you are a hunter with few equals in all of Azeroth. Your strength, agility, and fierceness are sure to give you the edge over nearly any prey or any foe you set your sights upon. And unlike other hunters with their rifles or bows, you, like Hone High Mountain, prefer to stand toe-to-toe with your enemies. You have perfected your trapping, hunting, and killing abilities on the ground, but now you have a unique appreciation for how it feels to strike like the great eagle, Honora. The spear enhances your survival skills, allowing you to become a true master of the wilds, and like the eagle, you need no help, for you have no peer. Talon Claw's spiritual power is such that shrines or temples that resonate with the force of the wild gods may respond to it, and priests of the wild gods may sense its presence. Its owner would be an honored guest in any Tauren settlement, provided that they have not shown themselves to be an enemy of the Tauren. Like Magatha's, Dark Totem tribe. On the other hand, the spear is also likely to draw the attention of the servants of chaos, so do not wield it carelessly. I like how that last page is like a pep talk to get you basically excited about playing survival spec. Notice that was kind of like, no, you don't use guns or bows, you like being survival, which is kind of funny that it would have that little bit there at the end. So yeah, I do like the look and lore of definitely survival and marksmanship. I mean, Titan Strike being from Mimiron and such, it's kind of like, okay. I'd like to, of course, better when that actually provided Hati, as a pet. And then sadly we lost Hati, and you can even see, if you look here, you see there in the middle? Equip. Hati will now fight for you as a companion. You notice it's grayed out. That shows that it's no longer able to be used that way, which is so sad. But like I said, they actually made it where you could actually get Hati back, getting her, I think, as a mount. So, I don't know if that's hunter only or not. I really don't know. But it's nice that they at least did that, especially for those who got attached to Hati. You'll see that the reason I don't have the secret appearance for the bow is because you have to get exalted with the Court of Ferondis. At least I think it's exalted. Or maybe it's just revered, I don't know. And then you have to purchase the little thing to get you the extra appearance. But as I said, if you want to get the secret appearance for Talon Claw, you just have to go to the Emerald Nightmare raid and have it drop from Ursoc. I'll do that at some point, because I actually would like to get it, because I do like the appearance. And I like that that's kind of a very simple way to do it. Just go beat a boss and hope that it drops. It can be a little frustrating in that regard, especially if it's a low drop rate, but it's better than doing rep grinding, in my opinion. Though it may be a while before I do the warrior one, because it's kind of a combination of both. But anyways, that's the lore on the artifact weapons for the hunter in Legion, and we'll return with more lore on other classes. Stay tuned.